Right now, as I'm filming this, Representative John Lewis and about 75 other Democrats have shut down the House and are staging a sit-in to make sure that the House doesn't go into recess so that some vote can be had on gun control. Gun control legislation that has become even more obviously necessary in the immediate aftermath of the worst mass shooting in American history. And so they're doing this trying to get the country to pay attention, trying to get so many eyes on our government that the Republicans feel like maybe the needs and concerns of hundreds of millions of Americans outweigh the couple of $1 million that they've gotten from the NRA over the course of the past year or two. It's probably not going to work, but it's all too rare that we even see this sort of attempted action. Now, we had the filibuster in the Senate recently, which unfortunately those pieces of legislation were shot down in the Senate. Senators siding with the NRA over people who would like to not be killed in a mass shooting in the future that could be avoided. Now we have the sit-in in the House. You might have seen the hashtag no bill, no break. It's going wild all over social media. And this is a piece of political activism from elected officials that is uniquely modern and connected. Now, they're in the House, and so you'd think, oh, well, people can just watch it on C-SPAN, right? Well, no. Paul Ryan and the Republicans have said we're not going to allow it to be televised, and C-SPAN doesn't actually have control of the cameras. That is controlled by the House itself, and so they shut the cameras off because they're not even willing to let people see the protest going on, let alone actually respond to those concerns. But unfortunately, unfortunately for them, I should say, we don't live in the 1940s anymore. And so Representative Scott Peters, a Democrat of California, began using the video streaming app Periscope to live stream it, and C-SPAN picked that up, and so now people can get an eye on what's going on there. Many of them have started to use their Periscope. Battery chargers are being brought in so that they can constantly broadcast what's going on, and they say that they're not going anywhere until action actually happens. Now, specifically, here is what the Democrats want to be allowed to vote on. There's H.R. 1076 denying firearms and explosives to dangerous terrorist acts of 2015, the bipartisan no-fly, no-buy legislation. Now, out of the three, this is the one that I know a lot of libertarians and liberals have the most problem with because they believe that the relative lack of due process on the terror watch list, the difficulty of getting your name off of it, means that this is simply bowing down to big government. And look, they might even be right. I believe that that piece of legislation should include a fundamental revamping and reconfiguring of that terror watch list and how you get put on it, the addition of due process, the addition of an appeals process to have your name taken off if you shouldn't be on there in the first place. Now, as it stands right now, it doesn't have that. I would say maybe we can come up with some way to deny those people guns that fits in with our other values. I don't think that that would be too difficult. But regardless, there are two other bills as well. H.R. 1217, the Public Safety and Second Amendment Rights Protection Act of 2015, bipartisan legislation which would expand our background check system. That is one of the things that we've been trying to get done now for a long time in this country, both making sure that gun shows and online gun sales have background checks, which in many cases they do not right now, and to close the Charleston loophole that allowed Dylan Roof to get his gun while a background check was still going on. And there's also H.R. 224, which has to do with reporting of statistics and gun violence to allow us to actually know what is going on, which the Republicans and the NRA don't want us to know, which seems a bit suspicious to me. But I want to focus on John Lewis because he is the one leading the way. He's one of the most respected members of that body. Now, I have problems with the fact that he endorsed Hillary Clinton, but here he's doing the right thing, and this falls in a long line of important political activism by Representative Lewis. Here's a brief quote. He said, "Sometimes you have to do something out of the ordinary. Sometimes you have to make a way out of no way. There comes a time when you have to say something, when you have to make a little noise, when you have to move your feet. This is the time. Now is the time to get in the way. The time to act is now. We will be silent no more." And other Democrats began chanting, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Now, I would take that philosophy and I would apply it to much more than simply the no bill, no break sit-in. And others have been making that same sort of criticism. But this action is the right action. I would love to see the Senate do the exact same thing. I would love to see federal employees across the country do the same thing. we need to make clear that this is the time for action. We're not simply going to allow Baltimore to have a mass shooting, and then, oh, maybe it'll be Kansas City, and, oh, we'll mourn it briefly, we'll send our thoughts and prayers, then we'll move on to the next one, and the Republican politicians will keep getting the checks from the NRA, and that'll help fund their campaigns. And oh, isn't it amazing how the system works in this country? No, we have to grind that system to a halt and make a change while we can. Now appears to be an opportunity where we might actually be able to do that. Now, I've said a lot about these topics. I've got other videos. Check them out. Now I want to leave you with Representative John Lewis and the other Democrats. And so I'm going to close this video by throwing to video from the floor of the House. And you're going to see the representatives gathering, and you're going to hear Representative Lewis speaking for a couple of minutes. And to me, watching this video, it felt like history. It felt like exactly the sorts of things that we cover, that we see photographs of, video clips of. It's this sort of action being done to make a positive change. And so I'd like you to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Mr. Speaker, I will ask that all of my colleagues join me on the floor.
The link's going to stay there.
On occasion, Mr. Speaker, I have had what I call an executive session with myself. For months, even for years, through several sessions of Congress, I wondered what would bring this body to take action, what would finally make Congress do what is right, what is just, what the people of this country have been demanding, and what is long overdue. We have lost hundreds and thousands of innocent people to gun violence. Tiny little children, babies, students, and teachers, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, daughters and sons, friends and neighbors. And what has this body done? Mr. Speaker, nothing. Not one thing. We have turned a deaf ears. We have turned deaf ears to the blood of the innocent and the concern of our nation. We are blind to a crisis. Mr. Speaker, where is the heart of this body? Where is our soul? Where is our moral leadership? Where is our courage? Those who work on bipartisan solutions are pushed aside. Those who pursue common sense improvement are beaten down. Reason is criticized. Obstruction is praised. Newtown, Aurora, Charleston, Orlando. What is the tipping point? Are we blind? Can we see? How many more mothers, how many more fathers need to shed tears of grief before we do something? We were elected to lead, Mr. Speaker. We must be headlights and not taillights. We cannot continue to stick our heads in the sand and ignore the reality of mass gun violence in our nation. Deadly mass shootings are becoming more and more frequent. Mr. Speaker, this is a fight. It is not an opinion. We must remove the blinders. The time for silence and patience is long gone. We are calling on the leadership of the House to bring common sense gun control legislation to the House floor. Give us a vote. Let us vote. We came here to do our job. We came here to work. The American people demand an action. Do we have the courage? Do we have raw courage to make at least a down payment on ending gun violence in America? We can no longer wait. We can no longer be patient. So today we come to the well of the House to dramatize the need for action. Not next month, not next year, but now, today. Sometimes you have to do something out of the ordinary. Sometimes you have to make a way out of no way. We have been too quiet for too long. There comes a time when you have to say something, when you have to make a little noise.
That's right.
When you have to move your feet. This is the time. Now is the time to get in the way. The time to act is now. We will be silent. No more. The time for silence is over. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.